Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
Welcome to the Comedians in Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, Gerald Walters. Or
Waters.
Waters. I'm sorry, Waters. Whoa, what's wrong
Waters.
with me?
No L's. I don't take L's.
That's right. You don't take L's. That's right. So, Gerald, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I'm Gerald Waters Jr., BKA Brown Waters. If you're looking for me, that's how you found me. Brown Waters is my stage name. I
Awesome.
inherited that name, from a freak accident when I went to a water park one day. It just kind of stuck with me. So I'm
Damn.
Brown
There you
Waters.
go.
I'm an entertainer all around. I do sketch comedy. I do a little stand up. I'm an actor. I produce. I got my own show called the Sketchy Budget Show where I help create and produce. So Sketchy Budget Entertainment coming to a theater near you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it looks like we're going in the same direction. So let's start with the first question. So the role of persona in comedy. So how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
I think it starts with your real self, and then you have to find the voice of how you can portray that person because in comedy you can't fake it. You can't come up there and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna play this character." You can't fake it. You got to come up with some genuinity. It got to come from a real place. It got to be relatable. You got to understand that character. So I think it's character first, personality, and then finding the voice that that character sounds like.
Oh, I tend to agree. So now when you say impersonate, so what if you're like mimicking somebody as part of the joke? Would that just not be part of the character, or maybe if
Well,
you take it too
you're
far?
your characterization of someone else. So
Right.
you're taking someone else, and you're so
Well,
that's
just for that joke, I'm not saying you're doing it all the time. So would that is
yeah.
there like, right? Is there some kind of is that would you say that's more of a comic doing that or a comedian that would do that?
Well, it depends because they have both actually now. They have impersonators who just act like the person.
Yeah.
Now they have people who the Donald Trumps is the most famous ones now where
Yeah.
they're Donald Trump, but they're saying absurd stuff and funny stuff to accentuate the character. So I think it's more comedian for performance. The comic can do the character itself. Yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, that's a great example because I'm sure you've seen people that just start talking about Trump and
Yeah.
then they become Trump.
It
They
becomes,
start
yeah, yeah.
acting like him. You're like, where did that come
Hand
from?
movements, the eyes,
Yes.
everything. They personify
Yeah.
that character, even though it's a real character. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's,
think that's a perfect. I see that way so many times. I'm like, and they're not even comics or comedians doing it, but
yeah.
they do become comics at that point, right?
Yes.
So would you say, so
Performers.
you'd say,
Performers.
right? Performers do, but non-comics or comedians also do this. And then I would say that they become at that moment a comic,
Yes.
right? They actually have engendered that particular genre. So does authenticity matter or is illusion part of the magic?
That's a good question because that is a great question because man, that's a two-sided coin because
Yeah.
authenticity does matter because you have to be relatable. Like they have to understand you. You got to come across the people have to respect what you're delivering so they can accept it.
Hmm.
But the illusion is, no matter what I'm going through, I can get up there and do this act and deliver this performance. So, that's a great. I think you
No,
need
that's
both.
a great, yeah, 100%. And you touched on something that only a performer would know is that, you may not be in the right at that moment. You're like, I don't even want to be here, but I scheduled it. So now
Yeah,
I got to show up.
yeah.
Right. And so now,
Have you ever
right
been
now,
sick? Have you ever been sick and had to perform, and then as soon as you get on stage and the sickness is gone?
I haven't been sick, but I've been unwanting to do it for whatever reason.
Oh,
Somebody said something and it threw me off, or they told a joke that I was going to tell. And I'm like in my head, like, oh no, oh, what do I do? Right. So, a lot of stuff like that, that happens, right? So it changes your mental space, right?
Yeah.
And so
Say-
that definitely will throw you off. All right, punching up versus punching down. Where does a comic versus comedian stand on this?
Well, you should never really punch down, unless it's strategically thought provoking. Making people see why you're punching down is really crucial because it could be just bullies. We don't like bullies in the world, right? You could be
Right.
thinking as a bully, punching down. You don't want to talk about somebody who's worse than you, but pointing out things that's worse than you is okay, but not talking about it. So you gotta. It's a fair fine line between being observant and critical.
So I just realized I forgot a major step is I did not define the comic versus comedian. That
Do
should be the
that.
number one thing. My
Yeah,
God, I don't know why it slipped my mind.
I'm distracting.
Well,
I get it.
since I didn't, and you're already answering the questions, I might as well ask because I
Yeah,
think you'll pretty much know. I think your definition might be better. Can you define the difference between a comic versus a comedian
man, I could not. I don't. I mean, till you said that, I really wouldn't even have thought of it as a
as
distinct
different?
different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I,
I didn't either until someone else brought it up. And then I'm like, you know what? You're right. And then from there, obviously evolved. So I'll define it. So I define the
uh-huh.
comedian as a funny person telling any jokes
Okay.
versus the comic who's any person telling funny jokes. Right. So that's where the Trump persona comes, right? People that are not even either comic or comedian all of a sudden become Donald Trump. Well, that's a comic because they are telling a joke. They are, they are now in the genre, but they're not a comedian because they're not a funny person. They're talking about a funny person. That I think is a perfect example of a comic. Actually, not even a comic, but how does a non-performer become a comic? I think that'd be a perfect example. Is Trump
Way to think
impersonating
about it.
Trump? So,
It's like some funny people don't do stand up, but you see them on the screen
exactly.
and they're funny all the time,
Yes.
but they
So
don't.
to me, that would be a comedian.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect example yeah, exactly. Exactly. So back to the second part of the second question, punching up versus punching down.
Yeah.
The second part of that question is the audience agreement with the comedian a form of permission or alignment?
I mean, I'm in the world of if it's funny, you should say it. If it's
Right.
funny, if it
But how would
makes
you know?
I mean, you got to try it. Like if you got to try it, if you laugh and it's not
Right.
hurting someone, of course. If you're not trying to hurt someone, but you're laughing, then I think you should share it with the world because there's other people who may relate to what you're going through, how you feel. Even your perspectives may be different and fresh. So,
Yeah, I would agree. Would you say that's number one? That you shouldn't even tell the joke to anyone else unless you laugh at it yourself?
oh yeah, yeah, from a genuine place because because you could be laughing at it, but it's
You could be
different.
laughing at it instead of
Yeah,
laughing with
yes,
it,
yes. Like
which has
that's
a place. I think it's still, if you're laughing at it, I would say that's a comic, right? Because you're telling the joke somehow is funny
yeah.
because you're laughing at the joke, which is an object. I don't know. That's
That
I'm gonna
like
have to think
kind
about.
of is that like comedy similar to like storytelling comedians compared to like joke telling comedians? Because I think those are a little different too.
Yeah, I would say that the storytelling is more of a comedian because their persona is funny. So you're going along with it because they're already funny and somehow that maybe the audience doesn't know why. But the comic, when you're telling jokes, either it hits or it doesn't, right? So you pretty much have to. That's probably why they don't tell stories is they don't have the chance. They don't have the opportunity, I think.
Ooh,
Right? All right,
that's
next question. Crowd work versus crafted work. Are you taking notes? That'd be awesome.
all the time. I like these questions. I'm writing stuff all the time.
Oh,
Oh, it's
100%.
something
Well,
else.
if you're going to take notes, let's throw it out this way. So what I've based on these definitions, which are almost arbitrary, right? Which, by the way, I did have ChatGPT write the original set of questions, and this is what it came up with. And then there's
Oh,
slowly I'm editing them along the way, and they're pretty good. So
oh,
I would, I think that there's a trajectory, a growth development arc where you start as a comic and you evolve into a comedian. Would you agree with that statement?
the craft, the skill, learning the timing, getting up there. Yeah, I guess the comedian is the art, the work of it. and comic is just the art of it.
Interesting. Interesting. Um, or would you say the output? So one's the input and one's the output?
Yeah, what you put in, yeah, the
All we're doing is trying to put labels on things, but sometimes it helps to, right, to define these things, because until I defined a comic versus comedian, you're like, well, I didn't even think there was a difference,
yeah,
right? But does it help? The question is does that even help to even define it, right? I think it does. I
it
think it
helps.
I think it
It helps each individual person because they can define themselves on their craft and what they need to work on, where
Yeah.
their goals could be. They could be like, I want to be a comedian, and then you break it down like this and be like, I got work to do.
Yes, exactly. Like I'm a comedian. I'm like, or I want to be a comedian. Okay, we'll start as a comic. They're like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
I'm like, because you have to tell jokes. Now that's kind of exactly my point. All right, so crowd work versus crafted work, and I already have an edit to this. So do if comics riff, like
Hmm.
if comics riff and comedians perform, where is the sweet spot?
Oh man, you got to be able to connect with the audience. So just being able to connect, like sometimes I've been on set and I've told a joke about 10 different ways and it's the same joke just because of the way the audience responds to me.
Right.
So I can elaborate on that joke, I can break it down, I can cut it short and take it on somewhere else. But it's just because I connected with the audience and I took what they gave me. So I mean that's a form of crafted work, but I'm open enough to make it crowd work. Now, just talking to the audience and using them as bait to set up stuff, then it's hard, it's
It is hard.
difficult, but it's easier in a sense when you've been doing it compared to telling jokes.
Have you done that? I've been successful at doing it, but I tried a technique where I want them to answer the question by saying the what particular word, like bird,
Uh-huh.
right?
So you
And they
set
say
them up.
bird.
So set
Yeah, I
up.
set them up. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the question is I got negative reactions from that because some people realized that I did that, and how I did that is by talking about bird-like things.
Yeah.
So that way they would answer it. I never said the word bird, but I was talking about flying. I was talking about feathers, and that was a bird. I'm like, I wonder where that came from. So the
Yeah.
question, right? So now I already kind of edited this question, but I'm very curious what you think about this. Would you say that comics is, well, basically the question is that if we were to translate the same question but put it into music,
Hmm.
would you say that there a sweet spot between jazz and a symphony,
Yeah, jazz is more improv. So jazz,
right?
you're open to saying like, okay, we got a bass line, but here's where it took me, and I'm playing with it, and then the solos could be different. Where symphony is hit the mark. This is the way. Get to the end. You can't miss a note. The whole song is thrown off. So yeah, yeah.
Now, have you ever? I haven't heard this genre before. I don't know if it exists. Is there a symphony jazz genre? Have you heard of it?
That is interesting. Maybe no
That's just the question of the day.
symphony
Symphony
jazz.
jazz.
Is that even
Is it
possible? Because those are two. Those are antonyms.
diametrically opposed? And
Yeah,
I'm
jazz,
gonna
free form.
freeform. So I'm already editing symphony jazz. This is something I think AI is going to come up with, and we'll be like, "What the hell is this? Symphony jazz? Only AI could figure this one out." So I'm going to work on that one. So what happens when a comic leans too much into crowd work when a comedian gets heckled? Is there a difference?
Well, when you get heckled, you should have the proper response. Sometimes ignoring is better. Sometimes, responses are warranted. Um, but
How,
crowd
were you
work,
have? Mhm.
huh? Go ahead.
Sorry, I just have you ever been heckled?
Yes, I've been heckled.
Were were you surprised or were you expecting it?
Not expecting it. Surprised, no, because like, I like it. I'm throw stuff out there, but keep it within the show. Don't try to distract me of like throwing my whole show off. Or if you talk about me, open the door up for me to have more fun with you. So I like that type of stuff. So it doesn't bother me when they heckle me. It actually opens up the show. I've done a whole show where I kind of use it as callbacks. I'll say, I've seen a lot of good comedians do that, where they'll say something to the audience as a heckling moment, and then they'll use it throughout the show as callbacks. And they're like, oh, look at John over here, John, whatever it is. So yeah, I like a little bit of both.
That's for longer. That's for more than a 5 minute set, right?
Hey, when you use it when you use it. Audience give you gems sometimes. I've seen comedians not use them and miss an opportunity, and because it leaves you as you seem kind of amateurish when the crowd gives you something and you can't take it.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know what to do. A hot potato. You're like, oh, I don't know what to do with this thing.
Let me get back to my joke. Back to my joke, please.
Yeah.
So,
100%. No, I've done that for sure. I don't know how to deal with the situation. Like, how do you deal with it humorously?
back to my joke.
Right?
I got to start over, please. Like, no, you got to kind of be able to flow with the energy of the crowd too.
Just to linger on them for one. So, have you been in a situation where you actually couldn't hear what they said? Everyone else heard it, but you couldn't hear it.
No.
No, you were able
I
to
haven't
hear
done
it.
a room that big enough. I can't. Not yet.
No, I'm in more in that where I actually can't hear what anyone's saying because I'm too in my head. So maybe that's just a me thing.
You
But
gotta listen and listen.
yeah, 100%. Rabbit ears. So advertising and self promotion. Who advertises themselves more, a comic or a comedian?
A comedian, because
Okay.
I think because they're more serious about their craft, so they're trying to do more business like moves. You know, get people in their seats, sell tickets, or get exposure.
So here's an idea I want to throw at you. Have you thought of selling jokes online? Not the joke like someone's going to buy it, but the format of your social media is you're selling jokes. Like I'm as a comic, not a comedian, right? Because this would be something a comic would do. For example, a Trump, like your impersonation of Trump, your Trumpisms. Are you trying to sell? If you imagine trying to sell that joke as your medium, would that make any sense? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, there's ways you can kind of monetize having your joke structures or independent jokes.
Right.
But yeah, I mean,
So do you think is self promotion selling out, or is it necessary for
oh no, it's
survival?
necessary for survival.
Right.
Every business, you got to consider yourself a business.
Right.
So you are your manager and your entourage most of the time in the beginning. So you have to think of it as a business and selling yourself, either yourself as the brand or the jokes are the brand, but something has to be some kind of a business.
Now, if the jokes are the brand, would that be a comic?
Well, if yes, I mean you're full on comic then. If your jokes are the brand, like I'm trying to think of a situation where the joke was bigger than the actual person.
Well, that would be the Trump jokes because there are other people, right? But other than that one, obviously, because
Yeah,
they're
but
not even comics telling that joke.
yeah, they're just people who kind of maybe look like them, and then they was like, okay, we can get away with this.
Oh, I'm talking about anybody, like people
Or
that definitely
like
don't look
Jamie
like
Foxx
him.
doing the Donald Trump, which was hilarious.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, well, that's
Hold on one
something to
second.
think. Yeah. Here we go. Doon, 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 doon. Not gonna get edited out. I don't know if he realizes that I'm not gonna cut this out. You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast and get the message out today. See you soon. I'm not cutting it out. It's going to stay.
Hey,
All right.
I saved my pizza. Go ahead.
You said pizza?
I saved it. Yeah, it was almost
Oh,
burnt. Whew.
100%. And you can't leave it on the oven. All right. Censorship and offense. So does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point?
Man, I don't know. I don't know because I mean, boldness and realness is warranted in this whole game. So
Hmm.
I mean, you shouldn't, like I said, you shouldn't do anything to take offense. It's more observations than taking offense. Um,
Or taking a position. Like if you observe it and you're not taking a position,
yeah,
that's okay.
like I'm against this, but I'm not down putting it down. Like that's just not me. It's not for me. But yeah,
But that wouldn't be funny, would it?
it could be because you could, like say for instance, the Dave Chappelle trash joke. He was saying,
Yeah, he's
like,
committed on that.
yeah, but he was saying like I just don't get it. But it's not that I don't support it or I'm against it. It's just I personally don't get it. So that's kind of how I see it like that. Whereas it's an observation more so than don't do it. You're just wrong. It's more like, hey, just I just don't get it. This is how I feel. So I like that.
Now, wouldn't that isn't that part of okay, that's going to lead into another question, but basically, isn't that how most people feel? Is they just don't get it, and you're kind of in line with the majority of your audience,
Relatability. Because if they didn't
right? It is
relate
really
to it, if they didn't relate to it, it wouldn't be funny. If people
exactly.
was just like, what does he mean? Why is he even bringing it up? It wouldn't be funny. But the
Hey,
fact that
yeah,
people think about it, and it's a question that people think about, like Bernie Mac said, I say what y'all scared to say.
right.
So that's kind of a job of a comedian to point out things in a hypersensitive state and then make them funny.
100%. So, would you say anything topic is off limit?
Off limit? No. There's time sensitive things, yes, but off
Ah, okay.
no.
Too soon, basically.
Sometimes too soon. You have to be really funny for it to be the too soon jokes.
All right, I'm going to throw a too
Those are
soon
my
at
favorite.
you.
Those are my favorite jokes, though.
The too soon jokes? Yeah,
Those are my
exactly. Because
favorite.
you So when later this summer we have aliens show themselves by having their craft over every single city, where no matter what you see on TV, you look up and you're like, I see that. You can tell me whatever you want,
June
but I
23rd.
see
They
that.
said they'll be there. Yeah, June 23rd.
June 23rd. Oh,
Hey,
I'm getting August. I'm getting August 9th, so we're pretty tight.
okay. All right. We might be having different aliens, but they all connected.
Yeah, this is amazing that we're taking this seriously, but the reality is that I'm serious, and I think you are too, right?
Yeah.
So to some point, so when is it going to be too soon? Because there are people you're gonna be like, yeah, oh look, it's there. We all know it's true. And then the guy next to you is be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, look, it's right there. Don't you see it? I don't see anything. Well, what's going on right now? So
Oh,
at what point are we're gonna be in a weird place when
you're too
everyone,
late.
half the
Then
people,
I say you're too late.
you're
Too
too late with too
soon.
soon?
You're too late if they already showing themselves and now you commentating because that's observatory. So it's
But
just
half the people won't see him.
well, did you first among it? It's like saying I'm the first person.
This is a premonition here. Right? We're working in the future now. Only in this scenario can we work in the future, right?
Yeah, I mean it's like as soon as the spaceships happen, it's gonna be jokes about it. Like who's going up there? Who's giving it up? Who's coming? Like you're cool. I'm out of here. Like who's doing that? So I don't think it's ever a too soon format as far as except
All
for
right.
hurtful things. Like I said, like
Hurtful
death.
things?
Yeah, like death. You can say things too soon.
All right, here's I'm gonna throw one out. How long are you gonna resist before you give up your human card?
Man, I'm gonna have to think. I'm gonna have to
You don't
try.
know where this joke is coming from. This joke is coming from the man card about
Think
giving up your man card. All right, I got to connect
Look,
the two. Well, if
we
you
got
if you didn't give
a
up your man
black
card,
we got a black card, so I kind of get it. We got,
oh, you don't know the man card?
I
You never
know.
heard of the? Oh, you don't know. Oh, then it's not gonna work. We're giving up your human card.
Oh man,
No
uh,
sex with aliens? You don't want to have sex with aliens? I don't know. I don't know what's going on here.
I gotta see these aliens first.
I said, wait a minute, you won't. Exactly. First, you have to see him, and then
I
you
gotta
got to be
see
one
them.
of the people that see him in the first place. And then the guy's like, "Why did you do that? You don't even know what I did."
You don't even know what I did. We're judging. Don't judge. We listen
Uh,
and don't judge.
exactly, exactly. Um, So who would survive better in a cancel culture environment, a comic or a comedian?
I think a comedian, because they'll be able to relate to what they're saying better. Comic is just throwing out whatever it thinks is funny, trying to
Right.
catch stuff. A comedian kind of thought about it. It has a brand already. They're they're doing it in more business areas, so they kind of just, all right, this is the purpose of this message and this joke. Trying to go viral, maybe, I don't know. So I think the comedian,
All right. All right. So timing and delivery, is it a science or an art?
the
So do
science,
comics, it's a science?
the science. You have
Oh,
to feel
okay.
it. You have to feel it. Like it's because sometimes the long beat is too much and it takes away from the joke.
Okay.
Sometimes you saying it too fast takes away from the joke. So it's a science of chemistry. It's a science of the neural what is it, neurals, your neurons,
Your
flex
noodles. Yeah, you got to get the noodles right in the spaghetti bowl.
noodles. They got to be done. They got to stick to the wall.
Yeah,
If
al
they don't
dente,
stick to
100%.
I think, yeah, but you gotta have it's a science of like knowing the timing. Is 1, 2, 3 beat.
So
Um,
you're talking about practice, right?
well, not even practice, because even in
Ah,
improv, because even if you're doing improv and like you have your partners and they say something to you, if you cut them off too fast, the joke don't land. If you respond too late or slow sometimes, the joke doesn't land. So it's feeling that science of, okay, this is how to deliver this energy, because it's basically energy, especially when you're doing stuff like that. It's energy, so it's the timing. Yeah, so you can't just it's art because the way you feel it, but it's this knowing the science of let that land. Don't
okay. Now
rush.
let me throw a curveball, which is already written as the question, but I think it's a curveball. So do comics rely more on structure and comedians more on pain into rhythm and emotion?
Comics rely more on structure. I think it's the other way around.
Okay.
I think because comics kind of spitfire was, jokes, was funny. There's joke after joke. Oh, this is funny. This is joke. This is a joke. Where comedians kind of have the setup structure, um, timing, even knowing like if you're on stage and the light comes on, giving that last joke before you get off stage. Um, that's all, structure. You gotta kind of practice that a little bit.
So you think that last joke, because I'm pretty sure we're on the same page where there's a couple jokes that you have down, and
Yeah,
it's usually your first joke and your last joke.
yeah.
Those are the two these will hit. Well,
So
maybe not,
those are
hopefully the first one, but the last joke is going to work every time, right? I think. Is that how you set up your
should
act?
should
Yeah,
that's it. You want to leave on a great note or a memory,
right.
something to
Because you're
remember.
going to have the stuff in the middle that you're working on.
Yeah,
Hopefully not too much, but you always have to, right?
or you to
So
the audience a little bit. So yeah, yeah.
would you say that last joke is more art or science?
That's art because that's the one you have to. The science of it is knowing that it's the last joke,
Right.
and then the art of it is saying, okay, this is how I'm gonna let y'all remember me with this.
With
And
this feeling.
yeah, with this feeling. This is how my last memory when y'all get up when I get off the stage, when y'all say my name, that's most likely what you're gonna think about. So that's basically that's art.
I would agree. That's the hardest one to have that be your memory, right? I mean, if it's the last joke you're waiting for, hopefully it's a short set, right? So, okay, next question. So, laughter versus applause. So, are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing standing applause that validate the message?
I mean, I think it's the laughters. Because if you're nailing the laughter each like because you're supposed to laugh every 30 seconds in comedy and stand-up. You're supposed to at least laugh every 30 seconds. So if you hitting those, most likely you're gonna get the standing ovation. Um, and you're not going to get the standing ovation if you're not hitting if they don't laugh the whole time and then you kind of get a chuckle at the end. They're not going to do a standing ovation, but if they constantly chuckling throughout, and then you hit them with the end, and they like, oh, that was funny, that was good, they'll give you the standing ovation. So you can't really skip to the closer without kind of leak because you can have a funny closer, but they don't ever hear it because your opener was suck.
Yeah.
They cut you off, and now your energy is shaky. It's not the same delivery. Also, have you ever told a joke that hit one night and it didn't hit the next night?
100%. I mean,
Oh,
that's the worst because you're not sure why it's happening.
you're like, I told it the exact same way, but
Yeah.
it's the not you're not connected. So, yeah,
I think it's you just don't know why it works, right? Maybe you're not connected with the audience. Maybe the joke, you have may not know why that happened, right? That's the worst one. To me. That's the worst one
you
because
could
you're
think
like,
about it though, because like I've been to where I just didn't deliver it the same.
right.
The energy was different. I was more laid back. Like, okay, I was laid back this time.
Yeah, your
I need,
energy.
I need to be in their face when I say this, or so,
Exactly. Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah,
All right. Comedy as commentary. So when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
I think it's the jokes you tell. I think it's the way you observe. I think it's the topics that you choose to hit. Because I've seen comedians get up there and kill a set and not give you any message. They're just talking about what's going on in their life. Um, And then you got the Cat Williams who go up there purposely trying to teach you, not teach you something, but trying to give you information that you can take with you.
Yeah. And is it even real information in his case?
Sometimes it is though. He takes things and fabricates them into funniness, but
Yeah.
they all stem from a base truth.
Right.
He'll stem from okay, the kid lost his legs, but then he'll tell you what's funny about him seeing the kid lost his legs. So
Yeah.
that's a weird topic, but
No,
but
100%. The kid never actually was on the ground. He was always he never touched the ground. That's why
never
you never
touched,
needed him in the first place. I
never
don't know
did.
how that joke goes, but
Yeah, but it's just he got superpowers now because he got these bouncy legs. But it's the I think it's the message in between your jokes because there's comedians who have no message. They just get up there, they make you
yeah,
laugh, and you remember something wild they said. And there's comedians who get up there and talk about the state of affairs, and they have their opinions and they have their observations. And then there's comedians up there that's like, hey, this is what I think, this is what I feel. Do you feel me? So I think it's levels to it.
okay. Comedy and vulnerability, a word I can never say. Do
One
comics so
thing,
vulnerability? That
one
is the word.
vulnerability, you have to have it because like you got to be open to them not laughing at you. You got to be open to them laughing at you. You got to be open to if your zipper's down and they're laughing at that, or you trip on stage, and um, you got to be open to them not getting you and you had a good set. You could have a great set and they just didn't, or that one person didn't get you. Going on stage with other people, you got to be okay with um, them liking someone else more than they liked you. And y'all
Right.
standing next to each other and they come and congratulate, hey, Keenan, good job. And I'm like, I was up there too. like, so like you got to be vulnerable when you perform at anything.
100%. Well, would you say comics are hiding behind their jokes and comedians expose themselves?
No, because they got bold comics, then they have shy comedians. They have I think it's just the level of what you're performing. Because I've seen characters like Gilbert Godfrey. You think he really talked like that in real life?
It's a lot of energy.
Yeah, but that's his persona. So when he goes out, and then I'm gonna give you this. And that's not his real life, but that's his persona. So, you know,
I see a lot of people try and do that kind of character, and they pretty much have to do it all the time. Otherwise, they can't maintain it. So they almost become that,
yeah.
right? Because it's such energy that there's no other way to do it. All right, final question. Legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comics tight five survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
I think it's gotta be the cultural point of view because I don't remember one. Well, I mean, I guess I can remember a couple comics where I just remember that set. But it's not long term. It's not longevity. It's just they got that one set, and that was funny. But somebody who's culturally adapted, somebody who's I guess hitting those right moments because it's the times like when BET Comic View was out. That's how you knew you was a real comic if you was in that space or a Def Jam or something like that. So you gotta be amongst the world. Like that's the relatability again. If you're not relating to anybody, then you're not really doing your job.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Gerald, is there anywhere you like everyone to find you online?
Oh man, look me up anywhere, Brown Waters, or
Brown
if you want to
Waters.
see some stuff on YouTube, Sketchy Budget Entertainment. I'm sure I'm gonna make you laugh, and there's more to come.
100%. Well, Gerald, I appreciate you being my guest. Everyone, please like and subscribe. And you're going to be keep you updated for next episodes. And hopefully, Gerald will come back on. We'll go for round two,
Oh
and
yeah,
see how these questions evolve because we know
these
they're
are
going
this was
to.
enlightening. Good questions, man. Got me thinking over it. I'm about
100%.
to go do some research. Like, man, do I really?
That's exact. See, there is value in everything. You
Who
got to
am
go check
I?
it
Am
out.
I a comedian or a
Or a comic. Or was I a comic and then I
what?
became a
Am I
comedian?
growing? Am I?
100%.
Man,
100%. Well, so thank you, everybody, and we will see you in the next one.
have a good one.